season has been brought to you by Radisson Red, Johannesburg, Rosebank. Style you can bank on. Great day, everyone. Ed Dudley coming out of Durham, North Carolina. It's Friday. You know what day it is. It's a day that I get to spend time with, I can actually say, my only girlfriend. Ask her, can she say that I'm her only boyfriend? Miss Charmaine Super Money, how you doing today?
I'm fabulous, my Zulu. And yes, you are my only boyfriend in the States.
In the States. That's
Yeah.
well, that might change after our next guest. I don't know. So I mean, like, off air, I told her, I said that she collects boyfriends like I used to collect comics. Um, I still wish I had some of them, though. I'm teasing. I'm teasing
I
you.
just love life, Mr.
It's
Zulu
just,
Ed.
it's just love. It's just love.
And that's what
Well,
we want
so
to
speaking
spread.
of just love, um, this next individual I've known for a few years he was probably one of the first few individuals that I met when I came to the Carolinas. And he said something prior to coming on air that he falls into love with everyone he meets. That's a powerful statement. And he said he's got, problem with a BS detector. Doesn't matter. Spread love. It's contagious. It's contagious. If we, our society as a whole, spread more love, we probably wouldn't see a lot of the issues that we have today. So I'm excited to bring a friend, my brother, Mr. Danny, the man himself, Rosin. Good day, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm like I went from a 10 to a 12 now that I see both of you beautiful people. So
Love it.
I just love you, Danny Rosin.
love you guys too.
It's so good to have you in the Ubuntu house, and just your energy is contagious. And as Zulu had mentioned, I mean, love is your middle name. If it's not, it is from today.
That's sweet.
So, Danny, I just got a quick question. Do you have like a fake ID that says McLovin?
Oh, I do actually. I'm not kidding.
Do you really?
You keep talking. I'm going to pull this up. A friend of mine sent me this thing. He photoshopped my my picture into that ID, and I'll have to find it here.
So, Charmaine, you probably didn't see the movie. There's a movie called Superbad. It's a comedy, and this young boy in high school got a fake ID so he can get some alcohol, and his ID says McLovin. I love it.
Dude, that's funny. I thought you had seen it before, but
I haven't seen it before.
That's real.
That's your new name, McLovin.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Danny,
there's going to be kids watching this and a fake ID. Like, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I've got an 18-year-old daughter who has now I know she has more than 2 fake IDs because I found 2, and she's we're going to a show in Tennessee together. We're doing a dad-daughter event, and she was like, "Can I use my fake ID?" I was like, "I thought I got all your fake IDs," but yeah, parenting's hard and beautiful.
It's a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage.
It is in the fact that she would be open with me about it at this point in time. We kind of have this idea that, hopefully she's being somewhat irresponsible, but being irresponsible responsibly. And there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, I'm glad that she's with us and she's going through this versus, going off out of the house at 18 and learning on her own without any parents to guide her, to also keep her like in check.
Yeah, love it.
Oh, that's such a powerful statement that you made about your daughter. But we want to unpack that a little bit more, but later on.
Sure.
Ed, I see you have a question.
No, I just want to say, Danny, for the people that don't know you, share a little bit about Mr. McLovin.
Oh my gosh. So a little bit about me. I grew up. I was adopted. I was dyslexic. I was in a home that was a broken home. Kid of divorce. My dad got remarried, and we had 5 and 3 kids. I found my adopted family, my birth family. I ended up having 3 more kids that I got connected to. So I say I'm a nation of 11. Um, I'm not a tall human. So I had to really be scrappy and figure out, how to get my way through this life. And so I think this idea of sense of agency and like who I wanted to be in this world where I'm like scrapping and, I've got some issues, some learning challenges and things like that made me work really hard to end up where I am. I think all these hard things, hardships, you know how it is. People who are broken end up being, I think, some of the best people on earth. And I think to some extent, maybe I'm that way, but I got in a lot of trouble growing up. And the trouble that I got into was, it was mostly pranks. It wasn't like stealing, cheating, lying, but I got a lot of demerits when I was in school. So many demerits that my teacher said I would not be able to graduate until I figured out a way to work off those demerits. And there weren't enough Saturdays. And even when I went back on Saturdays, I would get demerits. So that wasn't okay. So I started a club called the Happy Club. And the Happy Club had a great mission. And the mission was to make people happy. Very general. But I was 15 years old and we did our first fundraiser, and it was a mismatch contest where kids came to school wearing mismatched clothes, and we didn't know if people were going to show up, but they did. We raised a bunch of money. And when I say a bunch back then, that $400 was a bunch. The winners got lavish prizes like a single ice skate for my attic. We were just having fun with it. We had influencers as the decision makers on the judge side. And that was kind of cool because it was influencer marketing in 1984. And so we were doing all these basically marketing stunts to raise money for organizations in our community. And then when we had licenses to drive, we would deliver these gifts to families on Christmas Eve, for example, families that couldn't have a big, nice Christmas. And so those dollars went to buying gifts for these kids. And in that moment, at 16 years old with my buddies, the pranksters that we were, I saw a family come to the door, open the door on Christmas Eve, and watched as these kids really felt like Santa had shown up and had delivered on their hopes and dreams on Christmas Eve. And I think in that moment, I realized 2 things. One was empathy, like a real understanding that I had a lot to give. And that there were people in this world that didn't have, the good fortune that I had. And second, I realized that we could play Santa Claus even as teenagers. And that was kind of a cool feeling. And that got noticed by Operation Smile International, Operation Smile, the Happy Club. And they asked if we would join them to be basically their succession plan, their kids helping kids, the future of Operation Smile. And a year later, I found myself in the Philippines and later in Africa as a scrub nurse in an operating room, repairing faces of children who had, cleft palates and cleft lips. And that's what got me into Carolina, UNC Chapel Hill. And my parents said, you got in, congratulations. That's great. But that's an out-of-state school. You can pay the difference on your college. And I said, I hate you for that. And I really want to go to Chapel Hill. And so in that moment, I decided I would, get a job when I was in school and try and help, fund my way through school. And I found myself creating T-shirts because it was an easier, better entrepreneurial way to make the money to pay the difference. And so I sold a lot of Duke Sucks T-shirts when I was in school and got known for that. And I found my career path because my parents said, you should fund your way. And I found my way into philanthropy because I was a troublemaker and I enjoyed doing community service. And so since then, I've started multiple nonprofits and an organization called Brand Fuel with my best friend, Robert Fivash, who we've been friends for 40 years, in business together for 25 years. We do brand merchandising, and we're a B Corp, which means we use our business as a force for good. We focus on shareholders as well as stakeholder value. And then my claim to fame, and probably how Ed and I got connected, is through Band Together, this nonprofit that I co-founded in 2001 when the Twin Towers came down. We put a concert together, raised money for the families of the fallen firefighters and heroes that had gone into those buildings when people were trying to get out. And we called it Band Together for Our Heroes. We flew firefighters down from New York City to tell their story in Raleigh. We got corporate sponsorships. We had basically a 3-week window to put on a show that we'd never done, but we had 3 bands that came down from New York, and it was based on the power of music, the power of community, fun, and then doing something really important for people who were in need. And so we raised $60,000. 22 years later, now we're raising $1 million every time we put on an event. There's a long run up in fundraising that happens there, and we pick a different cause in our community every year. And that has given me the opportunity to just do amazing things in my life, start other nonprofits, meet people like you all, be a better human, and try to be a better human. And that's it. It's a lot, but thanks for asking.
Oh, that is amazing on so many levels. I mean, you spoke. Oh my God, it's amazing what you're actually doing. And the fact that you use fun, you use your energy and your story. I mean, being adopted and all of those things, and has given you the compassion to do what you do. At the last time we chatted, it was on the 10th of February, actually, where you won the Human Rights or Humanitarian Man of the Year award in LA. I didn't get a chance to ask you why, but this explains everything. And just congratulations on that award.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
He's a flippin' amazing human, Zuluet. So you know some good people.
I told you. I told you. But for the people that that know you, Danny, now we understand the philanthropy started as a team. And that planted the seed in you, and you saw the goodness that you were doing. And who knew that $400 that you're raising and in Santa Claus, now you're raising millions of dollars to help nonprofits and individuals. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And and I said it to you personally, and I'll say it here on this platform. We need more Danny Rosins out there.
Sweet.
You're doing an amazing job out there. We appreciate you.
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks. It's a real honor / privilege, and also I think maybe a moral imperative or a responsibility for all of us to kind of, ask yourself the question, what's yours to do in this moment? And I think that's something I'm learning more and more when a war happens or something happens in your backyard or in your business or your family or your friends' family. What is yours to do in that moment? Yours as an individual, yours as a family, your business, your companies, how can you get invested in social impact, your industries, what is yours to do in that moment is a good question to ask. And to sit idle is just not something that I'm willing to do. And sometimes it's writing a check. Most of the times it's rolling up my sleeves and having conversations, talk about strategy and how do we go from, our original idea for Band Together was a wine tasting. And my friend said we should have our friends get together, pay $250 each. We'll have a wine tasting. We'll send a check up north. And I said, we just don't have that many friends. It's going to be a check for $5,000. So we just got really strategic and thought about how do we go bigger and how do we bring others along for the ride and build community around giving, but give them a reason to come together. Like fun is a great reason. Live music is a great reason. It's contagious.
Oh,
Absolutely.
So,
Danny, when we asked you to complete the Google form, I was so taken aback by the story that you actually wrote, because you didn't give us your bio. You actually spoke about being at the airport, and I go, damn, I love this guy. I don't even know him. The way he approached it, the way you shared it, and you, for me, represent the principles of Ubuntu. Meeting people as to where they are, this young child. Would you mind just unpacking that a little bit for us? Because there's so much power in what you did in that moment for that life that you didn't even know.
Yeah, there's 2 parts of this, Charmaine. One is there's an exercise that that I was asked to partake in when I was on, and I'm still on the Place of the Table board. Place of the Tables in Raleigh. It's a pay what you can cafe. It's a nonprofit cafe, and you go in and you can pay the suggested price. You can pay it forward, or you can not pay anything and volunteer for your meal. And when you walk in there, I would say there's more hugs per capita than in any cafe in the world in this place. It's really special, but you look around and it's super diverse, and you can just feel the incredible spirit and the acceptance and the idea around dignity that people have in that space. And so we were asked as a board to share our bios, and it was done right before I shared mine with you. And instead of giving this long list of, accolades and things I'd done and started, which, by the way, all of them have the word co in front of them. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I am a big time collaborator. I know I can't do this stuff myself. I've got, limitations. So I'm always pulling people in to help in other organizations. And that's the power of Band Together. As an aside, it's a collaborative philanthropic effort with other nonprofits. It's not just us writing a check. But my answer was a story that I told, was something that was more. So the second part of this is, it was more of a fiction, and I wanted to kind of put myself into a story that I kind of wanted to see myself as someone doing this thing. I am invested in it. So it's not a true story. It was something that hits on a lot of the things that matter to me, my philosophy. And so a takeaway for people would be, to think about, when you do your bios, you do your boring list, or you really add some flavor and meaning to, your story. And so the story was about essentially meeting a younger me in an airport, a kid who was struggling. And so I was basically doing a mirror reflection of myself as a younger Danny, and struggling as a kid to learn, and not sure where he was going to go in life. And all of the things that were happening in the airport were kind of a metaphor for the hustle and bustle of life. And as a kid who had dyslexia, which I was able to overcome, this kid in the story also had dyslexia. And this kid, I didn't know him. He's sitting next to me. His parents are on the other side with their earplugs in, listening to their favorite podcast, which of course is your podcast, and not really paying attention to this kid who was struggling. And the conversation we had was just a meaningful opportunity for me to say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be effing hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to struggle. And so, this kid looked at me and he said, like, I appreciate that. So I gave him my business card, and of course it said president or co-president and co-founder of Band Together and Brand Fuel on it. And he shared it with his dad. And as we walked to get on our flights, I remember his dad saying, like, what was he talking to you about? And he showed him the card. And he was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like somebody. That was it.
That's beautiful.
But so many people need to actually hear that story, and because a lot of people go through hardship, and self-belief is non-existent. Actually, you need to find your vision, know your strengths, know your limitations, and just persevere. And that was a beautiful. I connected with that story. I didn't realize it was not real, but as you share, and when you came in and you spoke about your dyslexia, then I created that bit of connection then. But thank you for doing that, Danny, because it's impactful. I'm actually going to share that story on your commentary, actually, because for multiple reasons. Because
Sure.
I mean, I'm not even going to explain that because I just have tears coming down my eyes. No, because I know how I can not know, I can only imagine how hard it is when you feel that life is a struggle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we've all
And
had it.
Yeah.
I think, again, it's the stuff that makes us better people, more whole, more empathetic, all of that.
And we need more empathetic people. Oh, that's okay. Sorry, Ed.
You're
Help me,
good.
Ed.
You're
Help
good.
me.
No, I like being in the moment, Charmaine, and it's okay. But Danny, a little while ago, you were talking about you being in the moment when events happen and things like that. You and I had coffee a couple months ago, and we were sitting out and talking, and you shared something that you did by inviting someone in your house. And I sat back when you were telling me the story, and I was like, I don't know if I could have done that. I went home, told my wife that story. I've told other people that story.
I
Can
know
you
the
just,
story
yeah,
too.
can you share the story, and then what was your thought process by doing what you did?
Sure. Going back to the question, what's yours, what's mine to do in this moment? A war started in Ukraine. I don't know anybody in Ukraine. I don't really think about, anything other than, what I hear in the news. Do I feel something in regard to that war? Um, I try to put myself in someone's shoes over there, to just be ruthlessly attacked for so many years, and to have this thing really kick into gear. And I thought, there are a lot of children over there that are being ripped from their families, or being injured or killed, and I always think about the kids, and so I think, there was a moment where an organization I'm a part of called PromoCares in my industry, we all sat together, and I just said, look, I think we could do something here for a nonprofit, boots on the ground. And so we decided to create a t-shirt, and it was a t-shirt fundraiser in our industry that we sold over a 2-week period. We had 500 shirts, limited edition. This idea around FOMO, and moment merchandising is what we call it, something in the moment, to capture that, with all the funds going to a nonprofit in Ukraine, Kids of Ukraine. And we raised a little over $50,000 in that couple-week period. And what that allowed me to do is to have a conversation with some families who were struggling, who would be recipients of these funds. And so I met a woman who reminded me of my wife. She was in marketing. She had 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters. They were separated by a street. Essentially, the mom was on one side of the street underground. The daughters were on the other side of the street underground, and the father had gone to fight. And so I realized that they were not together because there were snipers outside. And I thought, this person is my wife. I am the husband at war, and these are my girls. And I felt it, and I felt her words, and she talked about how many people were displaced. And yeah, that's good. That's it. Nope. Thank you. Sorry. And so we ended up looking to see if we could, host a family, or misplace somebody, kid or whatever. And there were a lot of organizations out there trying to get people from Ukraine out. And we aligned with a group called Uniting for Ukraine. There was someone in our area who had donated all of his airline miles. He was an avid traveler. He just had all these airline miles. He'd never use them, so he donated them to anybody who needed to get from A to B. And then other people saw that who had airline miles, and they contributed airline miles. Now you've got a way to get there. Now we've got to find a way to get them somewhere. And so we signed up for a couple of interviews, and we found a kid who was just about to turn 18, and he was going to have to go to war. And his parents made the very difficult decision to send him out of their homeland, Ukraine, so he wouldn't have to fight. Can you imagine that? I mean, can you imagine sending your child out into an unfamiliar world at 18 years old? I just can't. I mean, I have a lump in my throat thinking about it. And this kid, he spent 30 hours on buses getting to Germany. He was bouncing around trying to find a place to live. He didn't have food. He was struggling. And so we met him on a live broadcast like this, and kind of hit it off, and we applied, and we got accepted. And they said at the end of the call, if you hit this button here online, as soon as you hit the button, his name was Nikita will be at your home in 1 week. And my wife and I looked at each other, and we said, are we going to do this for this kid? And we sat down with our daughters, and literally we almost talked ourselves out of it. I had to say to our family, like, we just need to stop talking about all the things that might go wrong. This kid's health, we would be responsible for him. What if he's a bad person? I've got 2 teenage girls. He's a teenage boy. I could go down all the reasons. That was on the list for sure. And I just said, this is the right thing to do. He needs a host family to get to the U.S., and we can play that role. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. And that was 5 months ago. And he's in college at Wake Tech. He's got a job at Food Line, and he's a great kid. And he's a part of our family, and I'm really proud. And I'm proud of my family for saying yes. And I hope other families raise their hands, even though it's really hard. There's some beautiful things that have come out of it. A lot of meaning, understanding of cultures, appreciation. How to navigate. I've got a guy in the house now, finally, after being full of women. I always say there's three kinds of laundry we have in our house. There's whites, darks, and pinks. So Nikita and I have definitely connected on the testosterone side, which I think I've realized I've needed after all these years. But it's a good thing.
Danny, you are, I mean, the world recognizes your heart, and that's why you got the award. I just want to say thank you for being who you are, and your ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Not many people do that, because it's it can have ramifications, right? Because your connection point could draw you into these situations, but you're so willing to go there. So thank you. I mean, an impact on another life is such a beautiful. I mean, you impact a whole lot of lives, according to Ed. So I'm grateful for that. It's just phenomenal. You share, actually, it feels like a movie, to be made, to be quite honest, because not many people
Without
will
a
do
doubt,
that.
without a doubt.
Not
But
many
Danny,
people step into that,
hey Danny,
especially
tell
when you have
the
18 and
girls.
a 15-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey Danny,
So
tell the
I love
ketchup.
you more, Danny.
Tell
love you.
tell the ketchup story, Danny.
The ketchup story. So that was the first or second meal. We realized that there was a real culture difference. So we eat salad, a lot of salad, um, and so he's a meat and potatoes kid, and so we had this big salad, and he went to the refrigerator and he pulled out a bottle of ketchup, and he just all over his salad. And we were just like, I mean, my daughter's drop jaw, and we just laughed. I have to show you the picture. I was like, dude, I gotta capture this. This is not real. Um, and I gotta tell you, this kid has brought so much joy to our. There he is. Let's see here, to our family.
Oh,
The ketchup bottle.
it's not funny.
Yeah,
It is.
it is
No,
funny.
it's
It's
Yeah,
funny. It's funny.
yeah,
but it just talks about, although we're all just humans first, but
Mhm.
just culturally, there's so much that
sure.
we need
Learn.
to connect more to be able
Yeah.
to like intermingle and just appreciate each other. Um, yeah, but at least you have another man in the house. You're not just surrounded by women, because we can be really difficult
Yeah,
at times.
you can, and beautiful. I have.
You
Yeah, well-behaved women rarely make history is a quote that I talk about often with regards
Oh,
to.
yes, please
Yeah,
unpack that for me,
yeah,
because I was going to ask
yeah.
you all about that.
I didn't say it, but it's one of the things that I like to introduce when I'm introducing myself and I'm talking about my family. This idea that well-behaved women rarely make history. Uh, I think as an outsider that looks at someone like Amelia Earhart or someone who has done something. So like, I think about Lizzo, as I love live music. I think about Lizzo, this big black woman, just like being herself and giving everyone, permission to just, be their weird, wonderful, beautiful selves. And so I'm encouraging my daughters to be more like Lizzo and to not wear the same clothes that everybody else has, to find their path and to,
Your
to stand up for
uniqueness.
things that really matter to them and to take care of each other. And, like we were talking earlier, Ed, I see that in glimpses sometimes with my daughters. But I don't see it as much as I would love to. I think my wife and I struggle. We're like, we're good people. Like, why aren't our daughters sometimes buying in and subscribing to this? Because they get in trouble a lot, especially my 18-year-old. And
And who did she take after?
yeah, there's no doubt. And while I could say we're a lot alike and that's my fault and all that stuff because it's my DNA and how I behave or how I raised her, and my wife lets me know that from time to time too. There's some beauty. Her name's Brooke. There's some beauty in Brooke that allows her to be a connection point for her friends, a leader. Her college application was a story. It was kind of similar to the thing that touched you so much, Charmaine, in my story, but it was a true story of her not writing about some experience at work, volunteering at a place at the table or band together, but a true story of her going to see her favorite artist and music artist. And she went to the show with her friends. They had cheap seats, $25 in the back of Red Hat Amphitheater on the grass. And she decided that she really wanted to be up close at the show. And she realized that she couldn't take her 8 friends with her. And she just said, look, guys, I'm going to go up and try and basically sneak into the show. And I had told her, like, if you really want to go see a show, here's, you want to get up in it, here's how you do this thing. And so she left, she got past the VIP checkpoint, and I could show you this too, if I can find it quickly. there's a image that I have. We do Life 360 for our girls because we got to track
Hmm.
them from time to time. There's an image of a snapshot of the theater where Brooke was, just to check and make sure everything was okay and that she was where she was supposed to be. And she was there, but not only was she there, if I can find this quickly, it's going to be perfect timing, but it's not letting me. She was on the stage, and here she is. So um, there's my daughter on the stage at Red Hat Amphitheater. And you can see the timestamp, but it's like 10 o'clock, even though it shows light. And so we do this thing every time where we see live music. I promise to FaceTime her just so she can see what I'm experiencing in the live music scene, and she does the same for me. And so I FaceTimed her, and I was like, "Where are you?" And she's like holding the phone up, and everybody's bumping, and she's having a blast, and she's by herself, and she's on stage, which is a metaphor for everything, and living her best life and pushing limits. And this was her college application story, and it was about leadership and going it alone. And soon enough, all her friends snuck in, and they were all down there together. And Brooke, they had a blast. It was good, clean fun. There's more to the story there too, but I just know that it's going to be okay. I know she's going to be okay. I mean, she'll be running a company one day, or she'll be in jail, or one of the or both. But she's going to learn from all of it, and she's going to have the greatest life ever. I just know it.
I just love the way you look at the world. And I just love Brooke, even though I don't know her, because it's things that I do.
Yeah. So you push
You-
limits.
I push limits. I don't
You have no
conform. I mean,
idea.
I have Justin Bieber's guitarist thing, George Benson's drummer sticks. It's like
Wow.
I'm going, I'm gearing it. And yeah, my son's a drummer, so
Yeah.
he'll tell you it's just Seal's song thing. It's like people tell me not to do it. I'll show you how it gets done. Because for far too long, women are put in this box to go, this is how you behave. I love the way you give Brooke permission. And this is a message to everybody out there. Live your best life because you only have one life to live it. As long as you're not killing somebody or harming anybody, and just spread love as you go through that path.
That's right.
Um, it's just
Danny,
incredible, Danny. I think I love Danny. Your wife is so lucky to have you because I mean, you're bringing up women to go live your flippin' life. Even when you spoke about the fake license, I mean, some parents wouldn't talk about it, but it's like
Yeah.
breaking the rules, but understanding it in a safe space. So that's such a powerful message, Danny. Thank you.
Yeah, that's sweet. And I tell you, that's how I fell in love with Ed. I think we got really honest fast. Like this idea that, if you want to, have a connection with somebody, let's not talk about the weather. Let's talk about real things, and let's be vulnerable when we do it.
yeah,
Not uncomfortably vulnerable in the first meeting, but I think Ed and I were able just to be really honest with each other. And then there's just mad respect and honesty, and also some things that he'd experienced, because he's got kids that are older that I was about to experience, and I got advice from him. And here we are multiple years later. And yeah, I'm really, really glad to be here with you guys.
The
yeah, I
power
love it.
of connection and the
Yeah.
power of being authentic can make a difference in so many lives. Yeah. You guys are testament to that.
Hey,
Yep.
Danny, I would
Thank
just say look at Brooke as one of those bamboo trees. Do you know the bamboo tree story?
Tell me.
So, bamboo trees, when you initially plant them, you see absolutely no growth for years. That's above ground. But the seed has been planted, everything is growing underneath the ground. And what happens over almost a 5 year period, you start seeing it break through and it grows rapidly.
Yeah.
So you planted the seeds there. They're underground. They're growing. You just don't see it yet.
Yeah.
Hold your horses. You're going to see it. And you're going to look back and like, wow. Because there's no way she cannot look at what her parents are doing and it not to rub off on her. It's just not possible. It's not possible. So stay
Thank you.
tuned for some amazing things from her as she starts to grow into herself and what her calling and purpose is.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
you know what I love about her? She doesn't need anybody around her to just like push through.
Yeah.
She didn't take her friends. It's like I'm doing this.
Yep.
That's it.
That,
But
that's Brooke.
what it represented is after she did it, it almost gave people permission to do the same.
That's right.
And in terms of spreading love and kindness and peace, if the weirdos like the three of us on the screen continue to do it, we'll be able to mobilize change into the future,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Danny, you call yourself a pathological optimist.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I think some people say they are, optimists, and nobody says they're a pessimist. But we know that people who look at things with the glass as half full versus half empty. I don't know what it is in my DNA that allows me to kind of look at most things like the glass is overflowing. I try and find the good in most things, especially people, and give people a chance no matter what. We've been accused of letting people go in the business after 25 years, just taking too long to do it because we're constantly trying to see the good in them and give them an opportunity to grow and work through it. And I would just say that pathology is not always a good thing. I think when they see, when people see pathological optimists, like, oh, this guy's always positive. Um, I think there's a fault in that. And we talked a little bit about it earlier. The fault in being optimistic always means you don't have a good shit detector. It means that you probably are not seeing the whole picture, and your mind, your heart is open, but the business part of it, the data set, the things that you probably really need to think through outside of the decision of the heart. I think that can get in the way. And I mentioned earlier that all these organizations that I'm a part of or have started have been co-president, co-founder. Um, I desperately, I recognize that about myself, um, and that I need to surround myself with people who have a little bit more of a discerning eye just to create balance. So the pathology of optimism has gotten me in trouble before. And, we had someone that embezzled from my company, a good person, 15 years ago or so, that we really liked. Everybody thought was great. I hired her and she was wonderful, but I just didn't see it because she was a great person, but she really wasn't a great person. It wasn't until someone in my business said, employee said, I think there's something off with this person. Let me show you why. And then, 2 weeks later, she's in jail. And that was a really difficult thing for me to realize and to understand that I'd rather be someone who's, overflowing positivity and have a low shit detector. But I need to surround myself with people who can help me balance all of the heart decisions that I make. And you've probably heard this too, that, for me, I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of decision maker. I have a business partner who is a ready, aim, 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 aim type of decision maker. And
We need
he's
that.
about perfection and really analyzing and data and making smart decisions that are super thoughtful. And I just want to go, this idea of progress over perfection that we talk about. Our business is built around the acknowledgement that he's one way and I'm another, and that we have balance. There's a yin yang. He's the zig to my zag. He needs me to push, even though he doesn't like it a lot. And I need him to say, hold on, let's think about this. And so I think that's sort of the idea around, the challenge that I have with that. But I'm still going to keep, so I brought these. We talk about rosy colored lenses, like having light, looking at life. I have what we call Rosin colored lenses.
This
And they're
is such a,
heart shaped too. I don't know if you can see that. I got my
I
best
say it, love
going.
it.
Yeah. So
But Mr. Rosen, the point that you make is such a positive, necessary point to land with everybody, because I love the fact that you have the sense of awareness to go, you know what, this is my supposed weakness. I need to surround myself with people that can actually help me blend in order to get the best outcome possible. Because sometimes people continue in that cycle and allow people to take advantage over them and just continue to blame themselves for allowing these people into their lives. So what the point I'm making is you're giving a tip to, oh my God, what's going on, you guys? Is this an American
cannot
thing
plan
that I
this.
don't know nothing about?
Charmaine, where are yours? That's
Well, I
great.
didn't get the brief.
That is awesome. So yeah,
I love self-awareness though, and I love your level of the ability to laugh at oneself. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Besides love, it seems like fun is his middle name. Do you have like multiple names, like Mr.
Yeah.
Danny Love Fun?
Yeah.
Oh
That's funny.
my God, that's your tagline. No, I'm
I
joking.
love it. Yeah. Fun is important though. Fun is
It
really,
Yeah,
is.
really important. And
I
in this
encourage
industry
that.
that I'm in, it's like we play Santa Claus every day. I think about it, like our industry is branded merchandise is the t-shirts and the sunglasses and things that people get at trade shows and all of that. But as a B Corp, we're focusing on sustainability and doing good things with your brand. But I really like the idea of delighting people with the gift, something that people say thank you for, or wow, or appreciative, or they use it, or there's an association with a gift that's got been made by a nonprofit. We have a lot of those programs, and also products that you can buy, from us or in the marketplace that are related to cause marketing, things that you can purchase
Yeah.
that where a percentage goes back to a cause. And so this idea of collective impact. But again, back to fun, like there's so much joy in being a business that is being strategic and thoughtful around the distribution of things that are given to people, and you can have a lot of fun with that, and a lot of meaning as well.
It's
Oh, there's a lot
beautiful.
of satisfaction in being able to give somebody a gift that they're going to utilize and through the
Mhm.
value chain, impacting so many lives. And that's where your, besides being a fun person, that's where your joy and satisfaction for
Mhm.
me appears to sit. So thank you.
Truth.
So, Danny, you're a serial connector. You're
Mm.
constantly connecting and networking with people. Besides me, who was the one person that you will always remember connecting with? Whether it's a famous person or just a regular individual person, who's one person that actually just stands out to you and why?
Mm. As you imply, there are so many, and I just think it's a thing I'm trying to teach my daughters too as they go into their college careers outside of the home, and this idea of building networks, but real authentic networks. I think the person I'll say, and there are so many, is a guy named Chuck Recor. Chuck is local. He flies under the radar a little bit with regards to his giving, but he started something which he called an experiment called the Harvard 100, and he identified 100 people in our community who were either board leaders of nonprofits or nonprofit leaders, executive directors, and he essentially invested in them as leaders. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those people who was sent to Harvard Business School, to the GNE Global Nonprofit Excellence Program. His idea was to take leaders, and instead of giving you, Charmaine, or you, Ed, $5,000 for your organization to feed 100 kids for a couple weeks, he said, if I give these two people who have leadership promise in the nonprofit community and invest in them, capacity building, education at the very highest institution in the land that had an incredible nonprofit leadership track, you could come back after taking that $5,000 of investment in you as leaders, and you could raise 50,000 and help 500,000 children. Um, and that has worked out really well. And so I use Chuck as an example because, one, he flies under the radar. He's not all about the look at me. You won't find it or anything about him, very little about it. I've turned it into a little more than probably he would like, because I think people need to hear that story. But I
Mhm.
met people at Harvard, in this program, who are doing incredible things around the world. And his seeing something in me and these other 99 people in the Triangle community to create the strongest nonprofit community in the world, allowed me to connect with people like Ed, and ultimately you, Charmaine, and we've split it off. And Maggie Kane, who runs Place at the Table, she and I became friends because of that. And we started an organization which Ed's a part of, that, we get together once a month, and it's community leaders drinking coffee together and just talking about the war stories and the issues, and being really real and honest, and sharing collaboratively instead of being protective of our donors and our successes. And so like the ripple effects from the Harvard 100 and what Chuck did, it planted a seed in me. And I'm like, this is a little baby of the Harvard 100 locally, where people are now still engaging and helping each other. And I could just tell you about the ripples from that, and his ability to, be a go-giver and have the vision around investment in me. He was a connection point that I will be forever grateful for.
That's great. I had the pleasure of meeting Chuck. Very humble and quiet man.
Smart.
You're absolutely right. Flies up under the radar. Just amazing, doing some amazing work out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's such a beautiful thing when people just give for the sake of spreading more, impact into the world. As you pointed out, I mean, he invested in you because he saw your ability to be able to utilize that knowledge, the connect. I mean, going to Harvard Business School, or Harvard, you got the best minds, right? The
Right.
collaborative effort has a greater ripple effect to spread. And, but you strike me as somebody that was very visionary before your Harvard thing from school, the way you started raising your ideas, your thing. What do you think, like, birthed that, may I ask?
Um,
Like, that creativity, the idea driven, the
yeah.
desire to
Yeah.
raise capital.
So I think independence, like if I can say, I've got an entrepreneurial spirit. Um, I want to be independent. I want to do things like no one's ever done them before. I heard something once, Seth Godin, who's this amazing marketer. He basically talked about, you know, the um, the idea that most companies or nonprofits, they're trying to, so you think about a bell curve, they're trying to get up to the top of
Mm,
the bell curve. This is where all the money is. This is where all the eyeballs are. This is the idea of virality in social media. I want to go viral. I want my product or my story or my, whatever it may be. So everybody's like just spending money and trying to get up here and get attention, get attention, get attention. And what he says is, the real, if you look at the bell curve, down on the fringes, down here is where the sweet spot is. And he talks about, the minimal viable audience or the minimal viable product, or what is the audience that's small enough that you can make money and do really well with, where you don't have to be fighting for this constantly. And so the idea that you can do something differently and build an audience around being the best at something specific. So being a mindful specific versus the wandering generality. And so
mm,
you find your community, you find your people, you find your story, you're educated, you become the best at, you be known for doing these things. And so I think I just kind of saw an opportunity to look at, for my industry, it's highly commoditized. Everybody sells the same stuff, but how do we approach the industry differently? So we thought about, man down. We thought about, how do we distribute promotional products at events in a really creative way? How do we align with products through our B Corp certification, which is very hard to get and we're very proud of, that sets us apart, that
okay.
builds trust. So the speed of trust. For the concerts, I have conversations all the time with people who want to start concerts for fundraisers. And I can't think of one organization that is still either did it with success or is continuing to do it, because it's really hard to do. And so I think what we built is something that's hard to do, but it's also unique. And there's this idea that if we can be original, and we can do it well and work hard at it and stand out, and again build community, and we can create some contagion, and we can do this again, and the ripple effects from that. So my parents were also, my stepmom's an artist. My dad was a psychiatrist, and someone asked me if he was an entrepreneur, and I said no. But then I realized, my dad started his own practice. He quit his practice to go to Africa during the massive genocide in the 90s, to work through the 700 Club, which was near where we lived, the home bases, with Pat Robertson, who funded him through Operation Blessing to be a physician over there and to pull bodies out of rivers and hang IVs and branches and stick them in kids' arms who are dying, and pay people $1 a day to pull these bodies out of his own pocket. He was in Africa for months, and then a year, and his practice went under, and he came back and he became a public servant. And he was the guy that was the first person on site, mental health professional on site when Sully went down with the plane in the Hudson, because he was overseeing $1 billion budget for, the city of New York and its public mental health issues. And so all that stuff, like I've been surrounded by it, I've been so fortunate to have that. And I'm rambling, but just keeping my eyes open, but my heart open too, and to learn and to just find the joy and creativity in doing it differently.
Oh wow, that's a phenomenal. I mean, you didn't know that story, Ed. You're like regarding his dad.
I did not know that story. I'm like, wow.
We're not rambling. It was a beautiful share, actually.
Danny's like an onion. Danny's like an onion. You peel back, there's another story. Peel back, there's another great story.
I'm curious. I mean, is your dad's experience kind of sort of moved you into Africa as well? Because earlier you indicated that you spent time in Africa. Whereabouts in Africa, may I ask?
So I was in Kenya,
Is it?
Dandura. We were in Nairobi. So we were at Kenyatta National Hospital doing the work that we were doing, but we were going out into the fields and to, schools out in the fields and teaching people about these kids who had never seen toothbrushes before. We had Colgate Palmolive was, we did the brush your teeth, song for these kids, and they would sing back to us. It was great. It was like camp, but we were thinking about like oral hygiene and also telling them, like, if there were kids that they knew had cleft lips or cleft palates, instead of them being left behind, there was a place that they could come once a year where the physicians would fly in and do free surgery. And so that was a part of it. Back to the dad question, this is really interesting. I wish I had the book here. I'd share it with you. A couple pieces. One is that when I got involved in Operation Smile, that was 1984 or so. And my dad, as a physician, was not involved in philanthropy a whole lot. He was one of the world's first 100 addictionologists in psychiatry, so early 80s. And so he was involved in it a little bit, but he saw the work that I was doing and was inspired. And he always wanted to go on an Operation Smile trip. And while we couldn't do that together, he couldn't get away from his practice and the timing was never right. He decided to take a plunge. He said he was inspired by me, which is fascinating and heart-filling. So much so that it changed his life. And so I think there was this reverse thing that happened that the teacher and the student, it kind of got flipped a bit when I was a teenager, which is great to think about. But I found this book that he bought for me. It was Operation Smile, the first 10 years of Operation Smile. It had a photo of me in it as a kid in the operating room, and I found it maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and it was just up on high up in our little library, and I pulled it out. Inside, the inscription said, "Dear Danny, and I hope you enjoy this book. I'm so proud of you and your investment in Operation Smile and giving in the world." I'm not going to say anything else. I'll start crying again. And I was so moved by it. So I called my dad, and at the time I didn't realize it, but he was starting to go through dementia. And it was one of the first times that I realized something was wrong. So I called my dad and I said, "Dad, I found this book that you bought me, 20 years earlier. And I just wanted to share it with you because it just means something to me, even more so than when I was younger and you gave it to me." And I read him what he wrote to me as 25-year-old, and he was dumbfounded. He couldn't speak. You could tell he was crying. And in that moment, it was like, "Are you okay?" And he kind of let out a little bit of a yes. I'm just really proud of you. And so I said, "Cool. I love you." He said, "I love you." Got off the phone, and then my dad called me back like instantly, and he said, "Did you call me?" And I said, "Yeah, we just got off the phone." And he said, "Did you have something to tell me?" And I said, "No, I just told you about Operation Smile and this book you bought me." He said, "What? Can you tell me that story?" It was like he was asking for that emotional touch point, that connection again. We just repeated the exact same conversation. And he cried again. I cried again, told him I loved him. And then, I called my mom. I said, "Something's off, man. What's going on?" She said, "I don't know. He's starting to just kind of forget some things." And fast forward 4 years later, he passed away. Grateful for the story that I am able to tell, and the moment that we shared together, and many more before he passed away because of that awful disease. But I can look back on my life and say that, my dad was entrepreneurial. He did some amazing things in his life. I'm glad that I was able to inspire him in some way to do good in this world through, Operation Blessing and the other things that he did as a public servant. And yeah, I'm proud of him. So there's that.
He's equally proud of you. I mean, the book, the sentiment, the conversation. Um, and I think I've told you this before. As parents, we can actually learn from our kids if
Mhm.
we're open to it. And to know, I mean, you just confirmed this. Your dad was inspired by you to do philanthropy, and how beautiful is that? And that's a special connection. Oh my God. You're like flipping. I didn't expect to cry because you're full of energy and love. Oh my Danny, this has been like phenomenal on so many levels. I mean, this just from your share, the power of having those special moments, the connections, inspiring people, the contagious effect of people, the good that you can pour into it, the cries that you can create, the joy that you could bring. So the message I take out of it, every single one has the power to shine the light, have an impact, make a difference. And you may think it's really small, but you don't know the impact that you have on people that you engage with. So never stop being you, doing you, and just giving that love and joy. Oh my God, I want to cry again, but I hate you and I love you at the same time. Let's go somewhere else. Talk about rock, paper, scissors, champion, darling. What is that all about?
Yeah, we should do that. Let's do a rocks, paper, scissors. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Lose.
All right. Ed wins. Ed always wins. No, I think Charmaine always wins. Yeah.
No, it's yeah. There's so many amazing things that you've actually done in your life, right? And you're just like, where do you have the time and energy from, may I ask?
I don't spend a lot of time watching TV um, and doing things that I think are passive. My wife is a little bit introverted. She'd rather crawl up, read a book, watch TV, chill out with the dog, eat a Pop-Tart in bed. She's an exercise freak, but she likes to eat 2 unfrosted, uncooked Pop-Tarts every night. I Yeah,
Oh.
so I don't do I make the time to do things, I call it mattering, things that matter to me that I find joy in. Not my whole life isn't like that, obviously, but you can find the time to do the things that you love and that matter to you, and to prioritize it. And I try and cut out, the things like TV that I
Hmm.
think consume a lot of people's time and energy. Sometimes social media, even though I am on it and invested in it, but cut that out and I focus on the stuff that matters.
And I love that message. I'm not even going to like talk that through because you made the point actually. So if things matter, you'll make time for it, right?
Yep, that's right.
What's like you, you've had I mean, you're young, right? And you've had
55.
really.
Yeah.
He doesn't look it, right? I thought you were like much younger. I should do my maths. When you said 1984, you were 15 or
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Um,
55.
okay, no, you look good. You look good. I think
Thank
it's
you.
that young energy, the spirit, the fun.
That's right.
Um, you've had life is a roller coaster, right? What was your highest high and your lowest low?
Mm, those are tough. Tough questions. Let's see. I'll start with the low. Um, it's funny. I always think of the lows as learning moments. So,
It is.
I mean,
Don't see it as a low. See it as a yeah. Take us
yeah,
through that.
I mean, uh, it's funny. I don't know that I have an answer that's like one thing. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things in my life. I don't think I've ever had like a single incident that I really struggle with. Outside of if I went way back, it probably is. I'd probably take it back to when I was a kid. I've learned through therapy, business and personal and family and relationship therapy that trying to understand who I am, starts in those early years and why I have the sense of agency and why I want to lead this thing and sometimes take the energy out of a room, which is not fair to some people, including my business partner and my wife. But when I was a kid, that whole dyslexia thing was really hard for me. I was trying desperately to get into a good school. I was in second grade. I had to do second grade over again. Uh, there's a picture of me that I still have. It's a little picture of me wearing a bow tie and in second grade. And on the picture, and I don't wear bow ties much. It's like one of the only times in my life I've ever worn a bow tie, which makes it even funnier. But on it, it says Danny is stupid. And I just think, that sense of self, um, that I felt like, people were making fun of me. All my friends went on to third grade and I stayed back in second grade. This was a baseline for the rest of my life, I think, trying to fight and earn, what validation, love, attention, some of it good, some of it not so good. I think that was the low. And a high. I tell you what, every time I am on a concert stage with a big fake check for $1 million, um, is extremely gratifying, with all these people from our community and looking out a sea of 6,000 people and having some famous band behind us ready to play the last set. Um, those are extreme highs. I'd love to say the birth of my child or children. Those things are wonderful. But if I'm just thinking about self and some of the stuff that we're talking about now, family is first and foremost, and we have lots of highs as a family. But individually, like the work that I put into this community through Band Together and being on that stage, rocking and rolling, and just feeling that joy, um, I could float off that stage. I'm so high, and so those moments, knowing that I'm impacting this community in a positive way through that organization is supreme for me.
I mean, you deserve every moment of that high, to be honest, because being able to band together and raise money for good is incredible, and not everybody has been successful as you. So yeah, and a
Thank you.
big hug for that when you were in grade two. You know what I'm saying? It,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
lots of love to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
so Danny, as we get ready to wrap up, I normally ask a question about, what would you tell to the youth and things like that. But I'd like for you to, what would you say to the nonprofits and the NGOs, the small and the mid-size? What kind of advice would you give them as they're navigating, excuse me, navigating this environment and trying to get a little closer to that bell curve we talked about?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of advice. I spend a lot of time. I try and carve out any time for anybody who wants support in the nonprofit world, doing things for good. If I can lend some of that experience, so I appreciate that question a lot, Ed. Um, I'll hit on capacity building. When I started Band Together with my friends, we thought that it would be important for us to say that we are 100% volunteer organization. Um, and that all of the money that we would raise would go towards the kids, the families, the nonprofits that we were supporting. It wasn't until 10 years in where I started to map out a course with our board to hire someone to invest in the organization, where there was that battle of, we're going to have overhead now versus no overhead. And I realized in chartering a path to hire a full-time person who was not me to lead that organization 24/7, to grow it, again building capacity to raise more money. We went from $500,000 when I was running it myself as an all volunteer organization to an all volunteer driven organization with 2 full-time staff. Now every year we do over $1 million. And so, got a couple $100,000 in overhead for the organization. The net's $300,000 more going into this community every year because of it. And I think nonprofits are of a scarcity mentality, and they're not investing in themselves, they're not investing in leadership, they're not investing in resources, they're not looking at how to really grow an organization to get out of that kind of stage one mindset. And I think, you have to assume some risk. Just act as if you were in a business. Would you make this as a business decision? Try some new things. Realize your full potential when you'll realize what you're made of when you try these things. Uh, and I think you mentioned the word about vision, Charmaine. I think leaders are visionary, but boards are a little bit, I think they're set up and designed to kind of put guardrails around nonprofits and to
Mhm.
be very careful about the funding and the outputs. And I think boards should be trained to think about how to invest in nonprofits, to dream, to go big or go home. And that scarcity mentality when you're like, well, we could feed more kids versus hiring a person. think about hiring a person so you can feed even more kids. It's the whole Chuck Recor thing that we talked about earlier. I want nonprofits to believe in themselves. I think they have identity crises. They start with the intent to do something big and serve people, and they get lost in the process and the governance and the dollars and cents, and they lose sense of the dream and the vision and the capacity building, the leadership investment, and assuming some risk for bigger outputs.
I love it. Go ahead,
I
Charmaine.
just love the way he lands his messages, and you're fearless, actually. You
Yeah,
know, you are,
I
and
do.
that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful message for whoever's listening. I mean, we by being fearful, we don't realize our full potential. I want that's not your final message, actually. What's next for Danny Rosin? Come on, share this with
Yeah.
us. Like, where
So,
to from here?
well, from a family standpoint, I cannot wait to, get our girls where they need to be in college and moving on in their lives and living their best lives and being there for them. But also spending more time with my wife. We've just, we've got a lot going on with these kids and this Ukrainian kid and these dogs that are moving in with us because we're trying to help out and all that. But I can't wait to do those things with her. And we've kind of lost some of that because we've sacrificed a bit with family. From a business standpoint, the B Corp is really our calling card. We've grown tremendously because I think we're a trusted organization in our industry, and
I
I
don't
love
think
my.
you
What's that?
I don't think you said, I think we trusted. No, you are trusted. Nobody
Yeah,
gives you money if you don't trust you.
you're right. You're right. I think we want to build on that more, and we want to be in the business of impact. And so I think thinking about that strategically, I have concerns about AI. The robots are coming, and what that does to our industry, and how do we evolve past it. And then I think from a nonprofit standpoint, I just joined the advisory board of Gabby's Grounds, and so these are people with special abilities, Down syndrome, and other challenges in life, but they have so many great things to offer, and they've created a business model around fulfillment. So fulfillment as in happiness, but also fulfillment as in kitting and packing products.
Sure.
So my business works with them, and now my goal is to introduce this organization, this nonprofit, Gabby's Pals, into showing our entire industry that there are resources for packing and kitting through nonprofits like Gabby's. So I'm really excited about that. I've just joined the Band Together board again. So I've always been involved. I'm still like the fundraiser guy and share vision with the leaders there all the time, but I'm in the boardroom again. And so I think we want to continue to grow impact there as well. But I want to have fun, more fun. Let's get together, please. Let's have some fun. Fun is in the future. Fun is always going to be in my future.
Oh my God, you're doing phenomenal work. Good luck with everything. Just love and blessings to you, your beautiful girls, to the
Thank you.
dogs, to the Ukrainian kid, and just I just pray for your strength to be able to have that desired impact in more lives. And Gabby's is a phenomenal way to impact so many more lives, actually. Because
Yeah.
oh my God, I love this guy.
And
Sorry.
I'm going to show his wife that part. I'm just going to make a clip where you just keep saying, I love this guy. I love this guy. And I'm going to send it to his wife.
I
All
love
you
her
do is
too. What's her name, Daddy?
Her name's Nicole.
Okay, I love Nicole too, even though I haven't met her.
She's
Right.
She's lovable. Very
But
lovable.
Okay.
I'm not going to share that clip, Charmaine. I'm going to cut that clip out.
I'm gonna kill you, exactly. No, but it's like what I get from you is the fact that be fearless, just do you. Just if love and joy is what you want to do in the world, find ways to actually get it out there. By, and you can still make money in the process. That's what I get. There's nothing wrong in
Right.
making money while you're having fun and impacting lives.
Yeah.
And the message to everybody out there, do your bit wherever you are to be able to improve just one life. And that's all we need.
I love
Well, Danny Rosin, thank you very much for joining us in the Ubuntu house. We really appreciate it. To everyone out there, God bless. We love you. If we can ever do anything for you, don't hesitate to reach out. Take care, everybody.
Love and
Thanks.
light, everyone. Thanks, Danny.